Hey everyone, just going to do a quick deep dive into split normals with Blender, but I think it's applicable to any software application. So whenever you're working with split normals and you're trying to adjust them, and we don't need to do this every day, but it's good to have the overlays turned on so you can see what's happening. So if you go into overlays and turn on split normals and faces, you don't need vertex normals, there's nothing to do with this. Okay, these are the ones you need to see. So these are the split normals here, pointing in the same direction as the relative faces from the vertex. Okay. There's quite a few different ways, and we're going to be focusing on like beveling and hardening and normals and sort of best practices and things that are going to catch you out. So I'm going to start off with what I think is probably the least optimal way to do this, and that's to add bevels manually with hardened normals turned on. And I'll show you very quickly why that's a bad idea in most situations. The only sort of edge case I can think where I would do it is if I bought in a model with a load of custom split normal layer on it, and I needed to add a bevel with hardened normals. That's probably the only time I do it. Let me show you why. So I'm just going to add a bevel. Okay, I've already got hardened normals turned on, so if you're not all familiar with it, you can just turn it on in the Bevel Modifier here. Okay. So this gives us the nice little fake shade. Obviously it breaks down when you look at the top, but it's quite a big bevel, but you get the idea. That's what we're looking for. And if you look at the split normals here, you can see that it's also adjusted them, and I'll show you what it looks like without that in a sec. I'll give you a quick demonstration of why this is a bad idea. So it's already turned on auto smooth for me, and it's also created a custom split normal level. So that means I can't use any of the auto smooth capabilities going forward on this object, and also there's no smoothing applied, no nothing, it's all baked into this. So if I add any more geometry, so like I add an edge loop, okay, you're in a world of trouble already because it's broke the shading. Now you can fix this, and I will actually use this as an example later to show you how to manually fix it, because it's quite interesting, but you don't want to be doing that on a daily basis. So the only time I'd ever do that is if I bought a model in, it's got loads of custom split normals, I don't want to be messing about with taking off the layer and then recreating it because they're that specific, which is rare. Then I'd do that just if I needed to add a bevel in, but it's a real fringe edge case. Okay, so I'll show you a couple of better methods now. Okay, so first method, I'm just going to get rid of this. Let's use the Bevel Modifier. Okay, so I'll just recreate the same thing if we use the Bevel Modifier. So we just want to do one side, so I'm just going to add Bevel Weight. Okay, I prefer to work with Bevel Weight. I've turned it off because they're just in the viewport, but you can just turn it back on again if you want to look at them. Okay, so just put that on as one. If you didn't know, if you go, if you actually look at the item data as well, which is quite handy, and click on the edge, okay, you can see that here as well, so you can actually adjust it here as well, which is actually really convenient if you're doing like lots of different sizes with bevels. Okay, and then I'm going to add a bevel modifier. Now this won't work on purpose to start with. Okay, and I'm going to change the limit method to weight, so it just does that one corner. So we're back to where we were earlier. You won't really see a lot from the actual overlay with this. And then in the shading option here, I'm going to check hard numbers, so you get a warning because you need to make sure you turn on smooth. So object, shade smooth, okay, which breaks the object. Then you need to turn on auto smooth. Now notice it hasn't added a custom split layer. Okay, all right, and now we've got it non-destructive. And then if you need to add more, yeah, you can. I would use, depends how you want to do it. You can either do angle limit or however you want. Okay, that's one way to do it. And then you can apply that right at the last stage, and it will keep the normals. Another little tip is, especially if you're exporting this to things like Unreal and Substance, if you've got something like this where you basically got quads or n-gons or whatever, both of those applications will triangulate it as they bring it in, but there's various different algorithms for doing triangulation, so you're best off before you export it to be controlling that process. So whenever I'm doing anything that's involving custom split normals, because if you depending on the algorithm, you can lose the normals. So I always add triangulate, okay, and then fixed for the quad, and then keep normals. Right. That way you're guaranteeing that what you see on the screen is what gets triangulated when it gets exported, and it maintains the shading as you go along. Right. So that's how to use the bevel modifier. That's my sort of, I guess, second favourite way of doing it, depending on the situation, and then I'll show you my preferred way of doing it, because it gives like a lot more options next. Okay, so I just want to show you my preferred way of working. So this has still got the bevel modifier on it, harden normals, and we've already put like the smooth shading and auto smooth, and we've got no layers here. Okay. So just before we do that, I'll just show you, because it is a non-destructive. So if we do the same thing we did with the ones we applied it, okay, as you would expect, it's absolutely fine. So it's my preferred way of working. So I'll show you with the bevel modifier first. So I'm going to turn off harden normals. Okay, and because we've got auto smooth on, everything's sharp, and that's fine. So I'm going to add, after this, I'm going to add a weighted normal. Okay, so I think it's where people get a bit confused with weighted normal, because it makes it look like it broke, but there's ways around that, and it actually ends up, I think, giving a lot more flexibility. So weighted normal here is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Okay, so it's taking the averages of these big faces, and using them to determine where the actual split normals are pointing, and we'll do this in more detail with a sort of proper mesh in a sec, so I'll show you how it actually properly works. So the way to set this up properly for this scenario, okay, is you click keep sharp. Okay. So now it looks like it's doing nothing. The only reason it's doing that is because the auto smooth, and we haven't applied any layers yet, is set to 30 degrees, and this bevel's about 45. So we're bring up, there you go. Okay, so now we've got exactly the same as we had with hardened normals. Okay, and yeah, the same. Yeah, things where we're not going to break it. Now the reason I do this is because it means that if you're in there manually chamfering stuff, or let's say you bought in an FBX that the normals didn't come across properly with, and you need to recreate them, it's ideal for that. Okay, so I think if you're using the bevel modifier, you can do either way, you get the same result. However, if I start from scratch, all right, add a cube. This time I'm going to do the manual bevel like we did last time. Make sure we haven't got hardened normals turned on. So if you remember, this is what broke it, and this is a better way to start the demo now, so you can actually see what's going on. So this is the split normals properly in action. So it's on a sharp surface, they're pointing forwards, these ones for this face, and then forwards for that face. Okay, which is why they're sharp. And what we need to do is average it, so this one basically points this way, which is what gives you that fake corner. Right. So shade the object smooth. Okay, oh, we've done that. And have the auto smooth on. Right. And then if I bring the auto smooth up over 45 degrees, okay, like it sort of works, but not really. And that's when you want your weighted normals in there as well. Okay, and you can see what happens if you look at this. Okay, so to get that fake effect, these need to be pointing out at 90 degrees, the same angle as the face that they're joining, and they're not. All right, that's why you get that sort of slightly rounded smooth, which might be what you want in some scenarios. Okay, but it's just basically averaged out the two. All right, and we want the faces to have more dominance, which is where the weighted normal comes in. Okay, you keep sharp, and then we'll just click on a mesh button so we can see what's going on. There you go, and you've really got the same effect now that you have with the weighted normals. And the nice thing about this is, because we haven't actually created any custom layers, we can go in and hack this about as much as we want, and it calculates over the top. So that's my preferred way of working, because like with FBX stuff that comes in, quite often the shading's all wrong, and you've got these nice chamfers on there. Then how do you apply that? How do you reapply hardened normals? You certainly don't want to be going and doing it manually. So this is a great way to do hardened normals on any imports like that. To bring it in, clear out the custom split normal layer, add the auto smooth. Make sure you remember to crank it up enough. If they're these sort of flat chamfers, it needs to be over 45 degrees. And then add a weighted normal. And then the same as you would do for the other one I just showed. When you export this back out, you add triangulation fixed. And you see what happened there, look. If you don't do click and then keep normals. Right. That's why it's important. Because depending on how you triangulate it, and that's I think what catches a lot of people out when this goes into other applications from here. If you don't do that, then you end up with weird shading that you weren't expecting when it looks fine in Blender. Okay, so that's my preferred way of working. So now we're going to do proper deep dive, and I'll show you how to manually manipulate the split normals. Okay, so now we're going to do some custom split normals. So I've just added a cube here. I'm going to add actually let's just put like a little chamfer in it like we did before. Just keeping it nice and simple. I'm going to put one edge loop in as well. Okay. Right. So now I'm going to add custom normal layer. Okay. So I've got no smoothing, no nothing on this. Actually, it's turn auto smooth on just in case. Sometimes it's a bit funny about what needs to go where. All right. So let's recreate what that we actually had before with this. So Alt N brings you up all of your normal options, and you've got a whole bunch of stuff here. And if you've played with this before, essentially it really doesn't seem to do a lot of anything. Okay, and there's a reason for that, because it's a bit weird how you end up using it. So you need to have face and vertex selection. Okay, so you just hold down shift while you do it. So now I can select faces and vertices at the same time. So then everything starts to work, but it's a bit weird, right? So you literally, it has to, because each of these split normals can relate to a face. Like this vertex here could be this one, this one, this one. So it needs to know which one you're actually talking about. Right. So to do that, click on the vertex, click on the face. Now you're saying I want to affect the split normal associated with this face. Oops. So if I go here and then, I don't know, rotate. Okay. So now you can see I'm rotating the one that's associated with that face. Right. So obviously trying to write, and there's limited control you've got with that. So you can't sort of say, hey, point it like this direction. You can rotate it like 90 degrees, 45 degrees in the Z-axis or whatever, but you're really guessing at that point. Right. So to recreate what we did, we basically want this face's split normals pointing in the same direction as this. So the easiest way I found to do that, just through testing, and we want this one as well, is really just a copy of one from here. So this, the face, if we copy the face normal from this, it's pointing in the right direction. So do Alt N, copy of vectors. And as I say, the controls are quite limited with this. And we've still got both selected. Now I can select this vertex. I want this one. And I want this one. And I want this face and this face to be affected. Alt N, paste vectors. Okay. Right, so paste them across. And we're going to do the same for this one. Copy vectors. This vertex, this vertex, this vertex, this face, and paste. Done. Okay, so we just recreated the harden normal process. Now, yeah, you could easily set something up in Python or whatever to do this outside the bevel thing or whatever. All right. That just gives the basics. Okay, so there's a lot more you can do with the sort of split normal manipulation through that if we play around with this Alt N piece. But I think that's probably enough to sort of get you going, because it's not that clear when you start, but that's enough to do more research and figure out what's what. So yeah, I wouldn't, but it's kind of nice. So like, it is quite handy with like the rotate, for example, if you have got like a weird little bit of shading and you've already got a custom split normal layer. Yeah, then it's quite handy to go in there. So that's how that piece actually works at sort of a lower level. So yeah, hope that is of use to people, and enjoy.